This episode is sponsored by Frey's Flowers, a Western New York family-run flower farm and floral preservationist. They offer unique and one-of-a-kind pressed flowers in the shape of buffaloes. Every buffalo is handcrafted, and because they are made with flowers, each one has its own look and personality.
You can get a hold of them on their website at phraseflowers.com. That's Frase flowers.com. Or check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Bring more joy and color into your life at Phrase Flowers. What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Thursday, April 24th, 2025. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host, Phil. Episode 354. It's going to be a busy weekend, Phil. We got the NFL draft kicking off, if you're listening to this Thursday, tonight. We got Friday and Saturday as well. Bill's got plenty of picks. I believe they got 4 picks in the first 3 rounds, 2 second-rounders, a first and a third. I'm hoping they trade up, and I'm hoping they don't trade back because I don't want to be staying up. I was supposed to be on with Talking Buffalo right after the first round, but something came up and he's going live at Resurgence Brewery, so go listen to that right afterwards. I got pushed, and it kind of makes sense. I would push myself as well. I would push myself right off a cliff, but yeah, it's going to be a very fun first round, just hopefully when I stay up for it regardless. There's some kind of payoff. The last few years there hasn't been. I remember last year we both wanted him to trade up, you especially for Brian Thomas, and it didn't happen. But we're kind of burying the lead. Round 1 of the NLL Playoffs are kicking off, and we're going to preview Bandits versus Seals on today's show, and then kind of pick the rest of the playoffs going from there. We had Pat Gregoire on the show just yesterday. If you're listening to this on Thursday, it came out on Wednesday. I should just preference which day of the week. It's a lot easier that way. But kind of went over the entire playoffs and kind of had a little bit of fun with that. So go listen to that. But Phil, very, very busy weekend, and we're recording Wednesday night. So we'll get an extra long weekend to kind of enjoy all this stuff and not have to record until late Sunday night.
Yeah, I also took off Monday and Tuesday, so I am excited to enjoy the extra long weekend. I am not going to be burned like I was last year. I'm probably just going to bed this year for the draft. I will not do it again. I have not been sleeping great, extremely exhausted, and it's not worth it. Especially with everybody saying defensive tackle's the way to go, and with that, I'm not going to stay up. As great as that would be for the team, not saying it's not. Trenches are extremely important, but they're not flashy. I'm not going to be like, oh, yay, defensive tackle. Glad I stayed up till 1 a.m. to listen to that. Again, sure, it'll be great for the team if that's the way they go. Not upset about it, but I'm not staying up that late to listen to that. I'll find out in the morning, read all the reviews and the grades and whatnot. I do love a trade grade and a draft grade. They're always fun to read. But yeah, I'll go to bed and I'll take care of that in the morning. It's not going to change, 6 hours later, the pick will still be the same. So probably just going to call it an early night this year. Last year was just so depressing for so many reasons. Didn't get the wide receiver I wanted, and then not only traded back, but traded all the way out, so I stayed up for absolutely nothing. It was heart-wrenching, It was a heartbreak. It was heartbreaking.
And then on top of that, it wasn't just heartbreaking in April. Then you had to see it in September and October and December and November all the same time when he's just killing you. And we started a dynasty draft last year, and you weren't able to draft Brian Thomas Jr. in that one either, so you get to watch him for years to come on somebody else's team. It's it's the gift that keeps on giving from the Jaguars. But before we do dive into this draft and what we want the Bills to do, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Phil's article came out very late on Tuesday. Thanks a lot, producer Pat. No, it was my fault. Puppies and tried to get to bed early and then didn't get a good enough sleep, and then we had the recording, and it's my fault. It was
a perfect storm. I didn't finish the article till 11 p.m. the day before, so all of it just kind of went poorly.
But it's still a great read. It does not go out of style. What would you
I
call
did
it?
do a small playoff
Yeah,
preview and
there you go.
primer as well, so still worth it. Still worth
Still
it.
worth
Right
it.
now,
Read
go
it,
read.
even if you read it on Sunday. It's still worth it.
Yeah,
And then if Phil's all wrong, you can just call him an idiot
yeah,
there.
that's fair.
No more articles from me, but Friday you'll see my predictions, score predictions moving forward. Remember, they're scores. They're not anything else. It's scores. I can't remember exactly what I got called out for last year, but it's scores. That's my prediction for
I
scores.
do remember it was something.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. I'll have to look back. You can check out our store on our link tree on our social media sites or at the top of the website by hitting the shop tab. You can represent the BSC on the go and look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. We will start with the Bills draft. Phil, easy question. We've said it for 4 years now. I think this might be our 4 year anniversary. I don't even know when the day is. I'll have to look back and find out. It could be today. I have no idea. We've said it for years. We are not draft experts. We are not analysts for the Buffalo Bills. We are a Bandits Central podcast with Bills and Sabres sprinkled in. With the draft here, we pretty much haven't talked about the Bills in a long time. Thanks, Sabres and Bandits. But what do you want them to do, and what do you think they'll do? Whether you want to break it down by round or just overall, what would your number 1, 2, 3, 4 need by this team be that you want them to walk away from the draft with?
The biggest two for me are cornerback at some point. I feel like that's a ridiculously obvious one. Everyone's got that on their big board for the Bills. They do not have any depth at that position. The depth they do have is bringing back some old Bills players,
Trey
and
White,
that's
Dane
great.
Jackson.
Right. It's nice to bring back some old faces, but that's not going to cut it when it comes to, deep in the playoff run. They need something to build on. Kyer Elam was not it. No offense to him, but I'm happy he's off the team, even if it's simply because you're not taking up a roster spot anymore to get somebody else in. So cornerback's a big one. And then the, I guess, controversial one that I've been all about this offseason that I would love to see them do is a running back with the ridiculously deep draft class. It doesn't have to be a first round. I don't want it to be a first round running back. I'll say that right off the bat. Do not draft him in the first. But it's supposed to be a very, very deep running back draft class. And I think you can get a great one in the second, in the third. If they get somebody in there, I'd be pretty happy. I know James Cook's on the team. He's going to be on the team this year. He's also in a contract year, so whether he wants to be disgruntled or not, he has to play really, really hard to make a lot of money, whether it's for the Bills or someone else. So to me, get a rookie running back to learn behind James Cook for 1 year, learn behind the team for 1 year. You don't have to rush him into a big role. And then if James Cook is holding strong, which it seems like he will, for anything above, I think you've kind of mentioned it as well, like 8 would be kind of where you're looking at, 80 years. So he's definitely going to be asking for more for that. So, I mean, it's no offense to him. He's a great running back. He wants to get paid, completely understand. But to me, it's not going to be for the Bills because the Bills do not need a running back position filled like that. So I would like to see a rookie come in, make no money, and kind of just keep that position rolling with Ray Davis, Taron Johnson, and rookie, not this upcoming season, but for the year after. And with how deep of a draft class it is, I'd like to see them just pull the trigger on one. Yes, it'll be a year early in a way, but it seems like there's a lot of studs in this draft class for running back, which is why it'd be nice to see them pull the trigger early, even if it's a year early. Also, it gives them some leverage with Cook going into the his final year. But I think if you get a rookie, then that's kind of the the writing on the wall. But so is him selling his house and pulling all of his Instagram posts down. So someone's got to do something, and I think it'd be nice to get a running back while the talent is there.
So my opinion is, I think drafting positions that are very highly paid, you get big time discounts in the first, second, and third round by these skill sets. I think cornerbacks are number one. I think they'll need to walk away with a linebacker because I believe Dorian Williams is going to be replacing Matt Milano next year, and you're going to need somebody to replace Dorian Williams. If not, have Dorian Williams stay in that spot and replace Matt Milano with this draft pick. I think they need defensive line help, but I do not want them to draft a defensive edge in the first, second, or third round because they miss all the time. I'm tired of them missing, so I don't want them to do that. Offensive line, a deep one. I don't need one in the first 6 rounds. Grab somebody in the 7th round because your offensive line is pretty much set for a while. Quarterback, they don't need. Wide receiver, I would love them to, but I don't think they're going to. I think their number one need is cornerback, and I would like them to draft a cornerback in the first pick, maybe a linebacker in the second round. I personally, my question to you, I do agree with the depth of running back in this draft. My biggest question for you is, who do they cut? Because I don't think there's any chance this team is keeping 4 running backs on this roster with James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, and then the early draft pick that you want for the running back. So who would be leaving the team in that situation?
I think as much as I like his skill set, it would depend on the skill set that they bring in. Do they bring in a full 3-down back, or do they bring in a passing down back where Ray Davis is doing the early work? And I think that would be a huge part of it. But to me, as much as I don't love it, I think Ty Johnson would be the one on the outside. I know he's had splash plays, and he's a great third running back, but I think if you're upgrading with a rookie, he's going to be, especially with what they saw with Ray Davis, the chunk plays he was able to get, the catching ability he had when he was called upon to catch the ball. I think Ray Davis, for a rookie, I know he's an older rookie, but you still have him under team control for a long time for not a lot of money. And I think his flashes were great last year. So as much as I do like what Ty Johnson brings to the team, I think he would be the odd man out of them. And then realistically, I think you could just bring him right back the year after in the offseason. I think wherever he would end up going if he did get cut, it'd probably just be a one-year deal and then just bring him right back, if James Cook moves on.
You honestly might be able to, with how deep it is right now and how many running backs are still on the market, you could probably cut him and put him on the practice squad if you really need to.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would be, no offense to him, I don't think anyone would be itching to fill it because of what you just said. There's a lot of talent out there for that position right now.
Yeah, you still got, the biggest name out there is probably still J.K. Dobbins right now. And yes, he's got major injury history, but he still performed decently last year. But yeah, that will conclude our draft coverage right now. We'll probably break down who they drafted on the next show. But again, there's so many podcasts out there. Like I just mentioned, Talking Buffalo, they're going to go live right after it. We have our niche role with the Buffalo Bandits, and I think we excel at that. And we're going to stick to it and sprinkle the other magic sauce in there. But Phil, I don't know if you want a moment of silence or something here. Your lead in the BSC fantasy game lasted about a week. You did it. You came back. You fought back. But this is the final top 10 for the Bandits BSC fantasy game. We will be crowning a victor right now. We'll go from 10 to 1. Janelle L moves up 2 spots into the top 10 at 1163. Mike D holds on to the 9th spot, 1179. Stacy K holds on to the 8th spot, 1182. Chris M up to 7th, 1217. Kim D falls down 1 spot to the 6th spot at 1267. My wife, who I'm very proud of, finished top 5, moves up 1 spot to number 5, 1279. Tim K locks down the 4th spot, 1287. And now the podium. I came in 3rd. I held down the 3rd spot for the majority of the season. I lost it for a second, and then I got it right back. 1307, but the clear 2 top teams this whole season long. Phil locks down the 2nd spot. He takes home silver, 1374, and by 2 measly points, 2 loose balls by Connor Farrell, 1379, up 1 spot, locking it down. The season 1 champion, Jackson B, congratulations. We will be contacting you for the merch. Don't worry, we said it before the season. We're men of our word. We will be contacting you for the merch giveaway. Congratulations, Jackson B, locking it down for season 1 champion of the BSC Fantasy Bandits game.
And we will have possibly something that we briefly discussed, and we'll have to discuss it a little more. But there may be another prize thrown out there. So everyone who participated, hold on, and we'll talk about that maybe next episode. But I said it last episode. I didn't expect to hold my lead, but to lose by 2, it still hurts. It still stings, but I am happy that I was able to dethrone Jackson for just a week. It was nice to feel what it was like to be in first and not always looking up at Jackson. So for 1 week, I enjoyed it, reveled in it, but I did not expect to hold on to it, and here we are. I did not. But 2nd place for the first ever BSC fantasy game, and you and I get in top 3. Pretty good. Feels pretty good. I do like it, and I am happy that Jackson and I did not have the same team exactly, because that would have been really boring. That just tied the entire season. So I am happy that we had one player difference, and that one player difference was interesting enough where I kept chipping away, getting really, really close, and then took over for 1 week and then lost by 2. So I think it was a lot more exciting than it may have been had our teams been constructed slightly different. So overall, really, really fun time following this. Obviously, being in the top 3 the entire season for the most part, it helps making this a lot more fun. But no, it was a good game. I hope we continue it next year. I believe we will. We're going to tweak a few things and hopefully get a bigger leaderboard with some bigger movement next season. But for the first ever year, I think it went really, really well.
Yeah, I agree. There's already been discussions on how to improve this for next year, so we'll be back. We're just finding ways and communicating with it, and we got like 6 months to work on it, of improving it without increasing our own workload. Like, we don't want to stress this fantasy game, but we also want to find ways to kind of improve it each year and grow it as we go. But producer Pat, I joke with him, he finished in the top half. He finished 17th at 1086. Our biggest risers this last week, we already went over. Janelle L. up 2 spots into the top 10. And then Jessica S. moves up 2 spots to 26. And then before the season, if there was a tiebreaker, we did say, hey, what is the goal total the Buffalo Bandits will score through 18 games? And that was going to be the tiebreaker. And there were quite a few names that were within 3. Again, credit to my wife, Brooke, within 1. She picked Buffalo to score 241 goals. Buffalo finished with 242. Prima Y, Brad D, and Garrett E all were within 2 at 240. And then Tim K, John B, Sly V, and Rebecca T all finished within 3, picking 245. Incredible that all of you, 8 names picked within 3 goals of what Buffalo would do. I think I had 212 and you were like 225, so we shortchanged them. But we had our reasons with the lefty forward, and we were just dead wrong on it.
Yeah, Brooke was one Matt Vince goal away from getting it correct. Had he missed his goalie goal, first one since '08, he would have had it.
Very true. But we'll go over the tiers really, really quick. I think we talked about it very briefly. We did pretty good on breaking it down, and some of the higher up were the ones that picked a lower tier guy that ended up exceeding expectations. And you said before we started recording, that's what you need to do, be able to score and win in this one. But tier 1 was Dane Smith and Josh Byrne. Smith led the way, 461. Josh Byrne, 433. Tier 2, McKay, Frazier, Kluch. It went in that order. Tier 3, Weiss, Buchanan, Priolo, and Nanakoke. There was a massive difference in this one. Weiss had 263, Buchanan 248, Priolo 196. That was the difference between me and you right there, Weiss and Priolo. And then Nanakoke all the way down at 122. Tier 4, Wires led the way, 146. Whitty, 118. Dylan Robinson, 102. And then Matt Spanger, who did get hurt, 43. Nielsen, who only appeared in 2 games, 10 points. Tier 5, Farrell, 147. Dawson, 145. They blew that tier out of the water. They will not be there next year. Belter, 39. Martin, 35. Vince, 27. LaRue, 5. And then Sweeting and Orleman, goose eggs. Tier 6 was the practice squad. Scanlon led the way, 93. Dooley, 29. Robertson, 3. And then Evan C. with 0. So I think we did a pretty good job of breaking everything down.
Yeah, and like what you said, you got to pick the people that are going to excel past their tier. That's kind of the whole point. But some of these, like you said, blew it right out of the water. The tier 5 of Farrell and Dawson, insane. And those are the 2 points I lost by. Bit of a bummer. But even Weiss keeping up with Buchanan, who scored a career high in goals, is wild. Weiss had a huge, huge year. And I don't think that was quite as expected. And also the down years of, quote unquote, we're saying down for fantasy purposes, not for the Buffalo Bandits team purposes, but Fraser and Kluch, as far as stats go, were down a bit this year, especially with Kuchia getting injured and other players getting injured. Nanakoke, bit of a down year stats-wise as well. So interesting tiers as far as some of these players go. And yeah, Farrell and Dawson, if both of them play again, are going to be elsewhere in the tiers for sure. But a lot of this might have to be jumbled around a bit based on this year. But I think overall we did pretty good. Pretty good.
So thank you all again for everybody that participated in this. This was a nice trial basis, and I think we all really liked it, so we're bringing it back next year, just fine-tuning some things and tweaking it and trying to make it as good as possible. But before we dive into the preview of Bandits versus Seals, we're going over our second sponsor of the show, Tap That Tap Room at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. It's Buffalo's first woman-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistently rotating taps. They offer a variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
PK, Tap That Tap Room has a few of their usual heavy hitters coming up on their schedule, starting with Thank You Thursday. And if you happen to be listening to the show, it's Thursday, and you're a teacher, first responder, or military personnel, then head on over to Tap That Tap Room to receive your 10% off the entire tab. And then on Friday, they have happy hour from 3 to 7. What's great about that is it's right before the Bandits watch party at 7:30. There's no better way to pregame than testing a few beers to find your new game time favorite. You can check out what else they have coming up on their Facebook and Instagram, and you can check out what's on tap or what's on deck at tapthattaproom.com. They have something
for everyone. Friday, 7:30. It's the standalone game of round one of the NLL Playoffs. I still don't like Friday games at all. Don't like it.
I do like it for the weekend.
That's fair. My biggest issue with it is it's tough to sell out, and Buffalo can do it if any place can do it, but people work late. It's hard to find babysitters on Friday nights, so on and so forth, but that's the luck of the draw. The second reason is players have daytime jobs. A lot of players don't live in that city, so even when you're having a home game, it's not truly a full-time home game for Fridays because the shoot-arounds rush, there's practice time, it's so on and so forth. Saturdays are peak lacrosse nights. You know, as the sport grows and the league grows, they can spread out days by days. But, you know, as players who work, this is their second job, it's tougher for Friday night. So, again, that's my little spiel on that. But
wait, before you move on from that, do you think that gives the Bandits an even bigger advantage with the Seals being West Coast and it being Friday night? So I think that's even tougher for them to get into town. I mean, I would assume most of them can get off the day for their job. It's still not easy, though, with travel and everything. So I think if there was ever, I mean, obviously you want to be home at all times, but if there was ever a good time to be home, one of the reasons I was kind of interested in the Seals being the first round pick for the Bandits was because they're one of the few teams coming from the West to the East. And I think that will benefit Buffalo, especially on a Friday game, and especially they talk about all the time with how many players live in the Buffalo area for the Bandits and how rare that is for the sport of lacrosse in the NLL. But I think in this exact situation, that plays a huge factor that a lot of them don't have to travel. Many still do, not saying it's perfect, but a lot of them do live in the either Buffalo or surrounding Canadian areas. So I do think that is a bit of an advantage that Buffalo has headed into this game.
So Buffalo and San Diego have already faced each other twice. I went into greater detail on all this, again, with Pat Grekwar on Wednesday, so go listen to that interview. But, you know, the Buffalo suffered their first loss at the hands of San Diego in overtime, 14-13. It was off the back-to-back versus Toronto, so take that with what you will. Benesh didn't play in that one. Baptiste didn't play in that one. But Buffalo had a 2-goal lead with 6:54 to go. Courier would tie it, 6 seconds left in the game, and then Berg unbelievably wins it in overtime. And then the following weekend, Buffalo gets revenge in San Diego, 13-12. It was tied 11-11 after 3, and Bucky had the game winner with 4:25 to go. After, you know, Leclerc tied it 24 seconds before that. But again, no Baptiste, no Rubish, no Benny in both games, I should say. Jackson was still with the team, Kyle Jackson that is, and then Zach Courier didn't play in game 2. That is something to take note of. He was at the birth of his child, and they also added James Barclay in the meantime. So San Diego is going to look completely different than what Buffalo saw earlier in this season. So take that what you will. Buffalo will have Ron John in this one. From what I'm hearing, there will be no Kyle Matisse in this one. Cam Wires is still, who knows what he's going to be. You're going to have to stay tuned for the IR, but you know, you will see Ron John in the lineup. So we'll kind of go over our roster decisions in a bit. But for San Diego in general, it's going to look very different on the back end, and it's going to look very different at the front gate as well, with players that were there that are no longer there, and which players that were out are now are back in the lineup.
Yeah, I think the big thing to note with these two games is, yes, the first one was on the back-to-back, but the big thing with that one is it was a home game for Buffalo, so the fact that San Diego has the ability to beat Buffalo at home and has already done it, I think that's big for San Diego's confidence headed into Bandit Land, and I think it's just a big one to note. I know, again, it was doubleheader weekend, but the following weekend when it was not two games back-to-back and it was just a straight-up weekend, I know, again, Buffalo had to travel to the west that time, so call travel into it all you want, but in that game, Buffalo still only able to win by one. So both of those games, one goal apart. And like you just mentioned, in that second game, a lot of big players missing. Benny finished the season pretty strong, finished with a hat trick against Albany. I don't think he is the Benesh of old anymore, but he's a veteran forward who's still very, very good. And when he needs to come up in big spots, big situations, and big games, he absolutely can do it, and it's a player that the Bandits didn't have to deal with earlier in the year. And then Rubish, one of their best, if not their best defender, especially as a lockdown defender. He might be the best on their team. Another veteran guy who, in these situations, knows what to do, knows what to look for. And then Baptiste is just a great, great player. So a lot of changes. Like you said, like, yes, it's only three players, but those are three big names. I mean, they are names that will easily change what it looks like to play this team. And then, like you said, Courier, who burned them in game one, not there in game two. So San Diego absolutely can bring it to Buffalo. Buffalo's already, yes, you beat one and lost one, but both were by one. If Buffalo had gone to San Diego and won like they did against Calgary early in the year when they lost the one at home by a decent amount, but then crushed them away, I'd be feeling a little bit more comfortable, but only winning by one with those players missing, it's going to be a very tough game.
Yeah, so we'll go over the injuries. Nanticoke was questionable last week. He was moved to the IR. Again, we think that was more due to rest, but, time will tell. Kluch was questionable, but he was activated and did play. We already mentioned Cam Wires and Kyle Matisse, but another one that we didn't mention, Nick Weiss. He left in the first. He did return. I also mentioned it last episode that when you're playing in that game, there's a lot of adrenaline moving through you. So what do you feel on Sunday morning, Monday, and so on and so forth? So it's going to be very interesting to watch the Buffalo Bandits injury report, but it's also very interesting. It will be interesting to watch San Diego's injury report as well. Benesh was questionable. Power was still out. He's played very, very... I think he's only played in one game for San Diego this year. Dylan Watson, who killed Buffalo in those two games, he was questionable, and Matthew Wright was doubtful. That's an upgrade from out. So Matthew Wright, I've already talked about him multiple times. I love Matthew Wright, but he's a pain in the butt. But Buffalo, goals for, first in the league in the regular season, 13.45. Seals, fifth, 11.95, and then goals against. Buffalo finished third, 10.83. San Diego tied for sixth at 11.61. Power play, Buffalo 11th, tied for 11th at 42%. San Diego 7th at 47%. And then the little difference here, penalty kill. Buffalo's been slipping a bit. They're 6th at 57, but San Diego's 50%, tied for 12th. So it's going to be a very interesting game. We'll kind of dive into the offense right now. To me, this is where it's going to be very interesting what Buffalo's roster decisions are. Like, if Kyle Matisse, which sounds like he's not going to be playing, you just slip in Ron John for that decision. Like, that's an easy decision. I'm not critiquing and talking about the differences in the players. I'm just talking for one, you have a replacement for Kyle Matisse. If Cam Wires can't go, you don't really have a replacement to come in for him. Taylor Dooley's still on the PUP list. You have Trent Robertson. He's not going to be making his NLL debut in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. There's no chance. So what I think is likely going to happen is McKay's going to go play majority defense with a few shifts up and forward. And to me, that scares me. Like, taking him off the forward and putting him on defense, I think that improves the defense and limits the loss of Cam Wires and Kyle Matisse. So I do think it helps the defense on that aspect. But I think, and I know you already mentioned it, and we'll talk about the forward group in a second. I know you mentioned you're more confident in Scanlon. To me, it's just a massive drop-off if you lose Ian McKay. We've already seen it this season. The offense struggled. So I do think, to me, the defense and goaltending is going to have to carry them by San Diego until they get a bit more healthy, and if they do get out of round one.
Do you think it'll be, because it is a one and done, extremely important situation, obviously, do you think it'll be a little bit more like Dane, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. Where McKay will still maybe play predominantly offense, but maybe double shift a little bit more, and like maybe play defense when the defense needs a little bit more of a break. Where they try to, or even like 50-50, where they try to have him out the back door when the defense needs a rest. Like some player has been out there too many shifts, they throw him back on defense for a shift or two and then throw him right back on offense because of what you just mentioned, how critical he's been to the offense. He is a massive difference maker on the offensive side of the ball right now, and I don't think you can fully take that out. And yes, we'll talk about the forwards in a moment, getting too into it, but I do think like pulling him completely back to defense with a few offensive shifts sounds like too much of a swing for a team that needs him on offense. I could see it being a little bit more 50-50 where yes, he's forced to play more defense than he's been recently, but maybe not what we saw where his stats plummeted in the few weeks where there were injuries and he was full defense. I wonder if they kind of learned from that, because right after that, when he went back to offense, his stats obviously went right back up. But it's not the fact that his stats went back up. He went back to being such an impactful forward. Like, I think you need that forward to be forward at this point. But so I think maybe they learned from that lesson of when he was on defense, he really didn't do anything to help the offense, even if he was throwing a few shifts up there. And I don't think, like you mentioned, that they can take that big of a hit on the left side just because he's been such a critical part of that offense.
That's what I would do. I just can't see them doing that because their history says they haven't done that. When
Yes.
Brandon Robinson volunteered to play defense versus Georgia last season, I mean, we're updating all the way back to last season, and we were saying how much that offense was struggling without him setting the lines. They didn't adjust that at all. Like he stayed back there, and that was going to be one of our questions in the press conference was there any thought to giving Brandon Robinson some shifts at forward to open up some lanes for Josh Byrne? They never did that. That was one aspect of it. We've already seen Ian McKay have to play back there. His stats took a hit. You've already mentioned it. So I personally think what they're going to end up doing, and again, no inside knowledge on this, I think he's going to play more 80 to 85% of the defense, and the 15 to 10%, or 10 to 15% he's going to play on forwards is the double shifting. I don't think they're really going to put him out the front gate. I think he's just going to stay and play, to me. At least that's what I'm guessing is going to happen. And, mostly because you're going against a San Diego offense that is legit. I think Zach Currier is going to be playing out the front gate a lot more than the back gate, and him not, we'll go over it down the line, but him not being a MVP can't, there's already stories and everything out there already about people complaining about this system. I didn't know half the system in place, and reading more about this, it's the dumbest system ever for awards, like how you crown award. He's not an MVP candidate, but Danny Logan is. And that's no shot at Danny Logan. It's just Zach Currier was the best player on San Diego, hands down, all season long, and him not being an MVP candidate with other players on his team that are, it's a shame. But him playing out the front gate's better. I mean, Hellier on that side, on the right side, he's like Dane Smith-esque. You have Wes Berg. He's going to be scoring massive goals all season long. He's a goal-scoring threat. You need to lock him down. So Buffalo's defense, to me, is going to be one of the biggest keys. If you're able to lock down Wes Berg, their offense flows through him. Yes, he's not the playmaker that Rob Hellier is, but if you're able to limit Wes Berg to put it at 2 goals, if you're able to keep him at 2 goals, I think you stand a really good chance of avoiding the upset, because I even mentioned it with Pat Gregoire. This 1-8 matchup is not a typical 1-8 matchup. Before the season, there would probably be plenty of people that had Buffalo versus San Diego in the finals. We're getting it round 1. It's a very dangerous round 1 matchup that, their offense, that, yes, they're averaging under 12 goals, which you might look at and like Buffalo's over 13. They're such a dangerous offense when they can get going that this defense is going to have to come up big time with, especially if you're down Kyle Matisse and Cam Wires.
Yeah, Berg had 6 points in each of his games against Buffalo,
Yeah,
so that's a lot. Like you said, you got to
49 goals on the season.
And as far as the 1 versus 8, like this isn't an Albany team that squeaked in when they shouldn't have been there at all, and barely snuck in, or an Ottawa team that happened to make it, or a Philly team that defied all the odds and snuck into playoffs. Like this is a veteran-filled team that expected to be at the top, but they struggled early. Took a long time before they got going. Did enough to make playoffs, snuck in, but this is not a team that you would expect, like you mentioned, to sneak into playoffs. This is a team that is ready to compete for a title. They know it. They have the veteran pieces to do it. So it's a it's a very tough first matchup. It's not again, it's just not a team that snuck in and got lucky to be in the playoffs. It's a team that just had a little bit of a rough season, but deserves to be in the playoffs and deserves to be up there with the top teams in the league. So it's going to be very difficult, but I do think stopping Berg's going to be huge. I don't think they're going to necessarily worry about Banesh, but obviously he's going to get his. He's probably going to get a couple goals in this one, but I don't know if he's necessarily one you want to focus on per se. I think, like you said, Berg, Hellier, and McIntosh, obviously, but also if why am I blanking on the
Dylan
injury?
Watson.
Watson, yeah, who somehow, I think he had 10 points against Buffalo and 24 points all year. So if he can find a way into this lineup, for some reason, he demolished Buffalo in their 2 games. I don't really know why, but he played really, really well against Buffalo. If he does get in, he's another one you're going to have to learn to shut down. But like you said, the entire offense funnels through Berg. He had a ton of MVP talk as well, even though he might not get it. There was plenty of talk about him getting it, and there's a reason for that. So if they can find a way to shut him down, even if it's going to upset me that it's Ian McKay on Westberg, if he gets shut down, I will take it.
So we're not going over each individual player. We went over it twice this year, and we also had Cooper Perkins on the show. So go listen to that interview from a few months back. So Buffalo's offense versus San Diego's defense and O'Rig. I think they need to get to Christian Irregularity early. And Pat Gregoire said it on the interview. I'm plugging that a ton. But he even said, you're going to be able to tell what type of O-rig you're getting in the first 5 to 10 minutes. If he's shaky, get to him early. You can't let him settle in because he is one of those goalies that can play big time in big time minutes and come up clutch. He's like a Brett Dobson to me with a little bit younger and not even less experience. I mean, this is his second full season and Dobson's in his third full season, but you got Baptiste the dot. It's going to be very interesting to see that battle, but he wasn't there last time. If Matt Wright is back in the lineup, he's going to be a pain in the butt for the left side. You already saw it briefly versus Josh Byrne in that first matchup. Danny Logan's an absolute beast. And again, I wasn't trying to take anything from him MVP. I'm just saying how stupid it is not having Zach Currier there. And then will Tehoka come back? But the biggest thing to me, looking at this, you got reverse transition for San Diego is going to be very dangerous with Trent DeChico, Eli Gobert. You got Danny Logan, Zach Deacon, so on and so forth. But and Zach Currier when he's playing out the back gate as well. But to me, if Ian McKay is playing on the back, we'll just assume he's playing 85% back there, you're going to need guys like Klutch to step up. He's going to have to be more than just a lane setter and a bruiser out there that he was majority of this season. He's going to have to put on the goal cap a bit in this one. You're going to need Chase Frazier to step up and have a Chase Frazier type of game. That means he's got to score early in this one to pump himself up. And the offense, offense has a different feel when Chase Frazier's feeling it. When he's feeling himself, that offense is better. And then you're going to have to have Kyle Buchanan pump in 1 or 2 goals, at least 2, maybe even 3, and to kind of get going. Because as good as Dane Smith and Josh Byrne are, you're going to need that secondary scoring if Ian McKay is on the back end. So it really comes down to, can those secondary and tertiary players on the offense provide stats for this offense? Because again, I'm not taking San Diego lightly. I'm not saying Buffalo's doomed and they're the underdog and so on and so forth, but I'm also not saying that this is a typical 8th seed team. You're going to need other players to step up in this matchup, especially if you do not have those 2 defensive pieces, because it's going to shake. That's one of the problems of having Ian McKay as your third lefty forward, because if the back end gets hurt, you're relying on Clay Scanlon again, not shot at Clay Scanlon, but there's a big fall off between Ian McKay and Clay Scanlon that, to me, I think is going to really hurt the offense, and I don't know if a lot of Bandit Land and Bandit fans are prepared for it. I think it's going to be a very low scoring game. We'll get into our predictions in just a second, but I'm nervous for this game.
Yeah, I think the thing I keep telling myself about this game is like, I'm not concerned the Bandits are going to lose, but I wouldn't be shocked if they did. Like, right. It's just one of those games. Like, I think I have full faith in the Bandits being able to pull this out. I think they are the best team in the league, and I think they're the best team in the league for a reason. They've been to 4 straight finals for a reason. They know what it takes to win this game. But San Diego has plenty of veteran pieces that aren't going to get shook early. If they're down by a little bit, they're going to be fighting the entire game. They've come back in plenty of games. So even if the Bandits do get up early, yes, it'd be great and something you're looking for, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's over. This is a team that knows how to win close games. They did one against Buffalo. They lost one only by 1 goal. So, I mean, it's just going to be, like you said, it's going to be a grind. It's going to be a battle. And it's going to be up to those secondary pieces. Like, I don't expect Dane to go out there and drop 4 goals and, lead this team because the offense is a little bit shook. I think they're all going to continue with the roles they've had all season. It's up to those secondary pieces to step into those roles a little bit more than they have been. Like you said, even Scanlon getting that opportunity, he's been pretty good recently. I know I completely agree with you. The drop off between him and McKay is still big. I hope they continue to have McKay on the power play because he's been an absolute animal for the Bandits on that situation. So I would assume he'll stay there. But as much of a bummer of it is to have McKay drop back, at the same time, it's pretty wild that one of your star lefty forwards can also just hop back on defense and be one of your best defensive players all of a sudden at the same time. McKay is incredible. He is an incredible player. It's a bummer a little bit for us because we'd love to see him as a lefty forward, but if the defense is hurting and they need him, it's incredible to have just an all-star defender chilling as an offensive player this year to just be able to drop back and plug right in. And then, I mean, he could be a big boost to the transition as well if he does stay out there, push the pace of play, and maybe sneak a few transition goals in. That could also be your difference, is the transition game. If they do put him on defense so much, are they going to push transition a little bit harder with a player like him back there? And I'm sure he's going to be itching to score all game if he's not playing offense. So I could see him really trying to push the ball and sneak a few transition goals in as well.
That's exactly what I was going to mention, is the transition game is going to be very important if Ian McKay is playing back there. So you got Ian McKay, you got Dylan Robinson, you got Nick Weiss, Steve Perillo. So if you're able to pump in 1 or 2 transition goals, I'll put it like this. If you can score 2 transition goals, I think the Bandits win. I think it's that simple. If we saw it versus Halifax, Buffalo outscored them 5-0 in a transition game, and I think Halifax is the best transition team in the NLL. You beat them 5-0 in that one. If you're able to put up 2 transition goals in this one, I think you walk out victorious. But we went over all the numbers and everything in this one. It's a little bit different of a preview because this is the third time you're seeing San Diego, which is weird because they're a West Coast team. But that is the unified standings. Phil, what is your prediction for round 1 of the playoffs? Does Buffalo Bandits three-peat hopes end in round 1, or do we see the quest for the three-peat advance to round 2?
As I was thinking about this as well, like as part of the season, if they lost in round 1, I'd be very disappointed. It would. I feel like it would hurt a lot. Like if you lose in round 2 or
Right.
obviously in the finals, it's different. I feel like if they had a round 1 exit, I'd be like, oh, that was an abrupt ending and very depressing. So I do not have them losing in round 1. Again, I think they know what it takes. I do not think they're going to take this game lightly. San Diego's already beat Buffalo in Bandit Land. Last year, we talk about it all the time. They were 1 overtime goal away from being out in the first round. I think they know how close they were last year before winning it all. So I do not think they're going to take this game lightly. I think they know what it takes to win a game like this, and I think they will be able to do it in front of Bandit Land. I'm going Buffalo 11-9.
11-9 win. I also have it a lower scoring game. I got them winning 12-11. I definitely think this is going to be a very, very close game, though. So if you're in Bandit Land,
it's going to be nervous.
Hold on to your keisters because this one's going to be close. But before we dive into the milestones, and wrap up the show with round 1 and then pick the rest of the playoffs for our predictions, Phil, let's get into our third and final sponsor of the show, the Totally Buffalo Store.
The Totally Buffalo Store's mission is to celebrate all things Buffalo with over 100 local artisans. Not going to find it at the big box shop. Shop local. Go do it. They are your place to go when you need a gift for a friend, you want to gear up for the Bandits, or you want to grab something for yourself. They offer 3 locations: 3328 Sheridan Drive in Amherst, 3459 Amelia Drive in Orchard Park, and 467 Center Street in Lewiston.
Yeah, we already mentioned it. It's a busy, long weekend here for Buffalo. Go there, grab your Buffalo Bandits merch, and show up to Bandit Land loud and proud wearing the black and orange. They have tons of apparel there. Not going to find a better Bandit selection anywhere else. But we already kind of started the show with it. Buffalo has the NFL has a big draft, and Buffalo Bills are a part of it Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And no better way to show off your fandom for the Bills than to grab some great apparel from Totally Buffalo Store. They got shirts, hoodies, sweatpants, so much more. And then they got a brand new product fresh in the stores right now, right this second. They got Buffalo Scrubs. We have a good friend who is a nurse saving lives on the front lines. We are going to be showing him these, and they're just incredible. Like, I saw pictures of them. I absolutely love them. I kind of am jealous that I'm not a nurse. I might just go buy scrubs for the heck of it and wear them around. But they got multiple sizes, and you can get the whole set for only $30. They're showing love to the first responders. They're showing love to the nurses. Absolutely love the scrubs. Go get yourself a pair. Like I said, multiple sizes, only $30 for the whole set. You're set for life. Until you need a new set, and then you just go back to the Totally Buffalo Store. So to find out what else they got in the awesome images that you can see before you even get into the store, so you know what you're shopping for, check out their Instagram and Facebook page. And to check out everything else, go to TotallyBuffaloStore.com. Phil, it is that time, and I never like doing this right after. We got to rearrange this stuff because I always do the milestones right after I'm done with this one. But it's the playoff edition of the fastest milestone, man. I have a good shot of actually getting this in a minute this time.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
All these possible milestones can be found on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. We post them leading up to each and every game. So if you miss one and you do not want to listen back, check for them there. They will be there in splits seconds, as fast as this milestone is about to come at you first. Here we go. If Dane Smith plays on Friday, we'll move into a tie with Jeff Shatler and Pat McCready for 10th in NLL playoff history with 31 games played. Dane Smith is also 4 goals away from tying Gary Gait for 4th place in NLL playoff history. He averages 2.1 for his playoff career. He is also 12 points away from tying John Tavares for 1st place in NLL playoff history. He averages 6.27 for his playoff career. Justin Martin is 1 block shot away from tying Kevin Brownell for 3rd place in NLL history. Paul Dawson is 2 block shots away from tying Kevin Brownell for 3rd place in NLL playoff history. When John Tavares coaches on Friday, will tie Les Bratley for 7th in NLL playoff coaching history. Tucker Nanticoke is 3 goals away from tying Mike Accursi for 7th place in Buffalo Bandits playoff history. He averages 1.59 a game. Kyle Buchanan is 2 goals away from tying Ryan Benesh for 10th place Buffalo Bandits playoff history. He averages 1.09. Kyle Buchanan is also 2 assists away from tying Rich Kilgore for 6th place in Buffalo Bandits playoff history. He averages 1.73 a game. Chase Frazier is 2 points away from tying Ryan Benesh for 10th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 2.05 a game. Ian McKay is 4 points away from tying Ryan Benesh for 10th place in Buffalo Bandits playoff history. He averages 2.05. Dane Smith is 5 loose balls away from tying Jim Veltman and Pat McCready for 6th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 3.93. Josh Byrne is 5 loose balls away from tying Rich Kilgore for 10th place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 4.42 a game. Connor Farrell is 3 face-off wins away from passing Tom Fair for 4th place in Buffalo Bandits playoff history. He's 8 away from passing Darius Kilgore for 3rd place. He averages 9.8 a game. And the last one, Connor Farrell is 18 face-offs away from passing Rich Kilgore for 3rd place in Buffalo Bandits history. He averages 24.4 a game.
About 1:30, sir.
Not bad. Better than the last 2 weeks.
As much as I do love Ryan Benesh, because I do love him, he was one of my favorite players when he was here. I think it'd be pretty funny if all these people pass him in Bandits playoff history while he is in the building. Still love him, but, we got to move on. And Kyle Buchanan, pass him. Chase Frazier, Ian McKay, go ahead and pass him. Knock him down the leaderboard. John Tavares, I know going to 4 straight finals helps, but it's crazy that he's already catching up that quickly in playoff history for coaching. Paul Dawson deserves the block shot record for playoff history, so hopefully he has a long playoff series and just puts him up. Put him up.
Yeah, I wish they would have kept track of that well before 2022, because he'd have records that are never going to be broken. But rest of round 1... We'll let you know the days and the times real quick. Number 6, Calgary, goes to the number 3 seeded Halifax Saturday at 7 p.m. Number 7 seed Georgia goes to the number 2 seed Saskatchewan Saturday at 9:30. And the number 5 seed Rochester goes to the number 4 seed Vancouver Saturday 10 p.m. So we're going to be picking our playoffs here. We both have Buffalo over San Diego. So they're getting out of the round 1. On the same side of the bracket, Rochester versus Vancouver. Who you got advancing to round 2?
I have Vancouver. I can absolutely see everything that you have predicted as well happening. But I do have Vancouver in this one. They're coming in 6-0 to end. I know Rochester was also coming in super hot, other than losing to Toronto. They were also screaming hot at the end of the season. So I think that's going to be a really, really good game. Really great opening round one. But Vancouver, first time they've made playoffs, first time having a home playoff game in forever. Christian Del Bianco back in a playoff game. I think they're just going to be feeling it, and I think they're going to be ready to win.
Well, that screws up your bold prediction then, but I guess that can't happen because you want Buffalo to make the finals anyways. But I've got Rochester over Vancouver. I just think that Rochester needs this more than Vancouver's. I'm plugging the interview again. Pat Gregoire I asked this hypothetical: would it mean more for Vancouver to win this game, accelerating their rebuild, or would the loss hurt more for Rochester failing to meet expectations? I don't think Rochester could lose this one. I mean, they can, but I can't stomach them getting to where they're at and them falling short again. Their offense is too talented. Rylan Hartley's playing too good, and I know Christian Del Bianco in that offense for Vancouver is playing elite, but I can see Rochester getting this win because I think Vancouver is just playing out of their mind right now, and their offense is playing better than they actually are to me. And I think that's got to stop at some point. And I do think Rochester is able to do it. But on the other side, well, I guess we'll finish up this one. Who makes it to the finals? But you got Buffalo versus Vancouver. I have Buffalo versus Rochester. Who gets to the finals out of the left side of the bracket?
Yeah, I do still have Buffalo. I do think they are the best team in the NLL. Again, 4 straight finals. They know what they're doing in playoffs at this point. They learned from their earlier mistakes of playing a little bit too confident, and some would say overconfident in some of their early finals. I think they know how ridiculously hard it is to win an NLL Cup, NLL title. I think they have what it takes to do it. But I think the Buffalo-Vancouver series would be a lot of fun, maybe just for me personally, because I do like Christian Del Bianco a lot, so I'd like to see him play Buffalo again. Buffalo, a little bit of revenge over Vancouver would be a good time, but I do have Buffalo winning, and I do think it'd be a pretty fun series.
Yeah, I got Buffalo over Rochester, so we both have the same team coming out of the left side of the bracket. I honestly think it would be over in 2 versus Rochester. If it was Vancouver, I think it would be the full show. I think it would go to game 3. I just think Buffalo has Rochester's number. They've had it for a while. Yes, Rochester's playing at a different level right now than they did earlier in the season and even past years, but I just think playoff Buffalo is different animal going into it. So we'll go over to the right side of the division here. Bracket now. Halifax versus Calgary. 2 teams that both of us were not high on. I don't think very many people were high on, especially Calgary. Who you got coming out of this round 1 matchup?
This could come down to goaltending, especially for Halifax. What do they get? Do they get a playoff
Hutchison
caliber?
is playing. He will get the start.
And he did play great against Buffalo. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see just, again, what level they get. But to me, it's going to be Halifax. I think they just have more firepower and just a all-around better team than Calgary. But could Calgary steal this one? Absolutely. Nick Rose could play out of his mind and steal the game. They're, a big physical offense. So I do think Calgary has the ability to win this for sure. But I think Halifax is going to come out with a victory.
I also have Halifax over Calgary, but I think it's going to be a very bruising game. I think this could be, to me, this is the game of the weekend.
Here's my question to you.
Yeah.
Does Withers get over 10 minutes of penalties?
I don't think so. I don't think it's playoffs, no. I think you might
keep it calm?
see 2, but I think playoffs is just a different beast. In Halifax, if this was in Calgary, I could see it going the opposite way, but in that nest, their first home game in Halifax history, I can't see Halifax losing this one. And then Saskatchewan versus Georgia. Do we see an upset and Georgia get revenge for the overtime loss last year in round 1 versus Buffalo, but take it out on Saskatchewan?
No. Georgia's about to get smacked.
Yes, I agree with that. Yep.
Yeah, I don't like them all that much. I don't have much faith in their team. I do think Dobbs can steal it, but at the same time, the Rush are just too talented. I do not see Georgia winning or really being all that close in this game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think Georgia's about to get smacked in the mouth, and it's going to be a late game, so you could probably just turn it off. But we both have Halifax versus Saskatchewan. Who goes to the big dance to face off Buffalo in that finals matchup?
To me, I think they're very equally balanced teams. They're equally matched teams. They both have balanced offenses, both have great transition. The big thing to me, which is the number one thing I like in all these teams, is goaltending. I think Chiliano, to me, would take that matchup over possibly Hutchinson or Hill, depending on how they did in game one or round one. So to me, I think it's going to be the Rush. I know it's kind of a boring pick to pick the first team and the second team to go all the way to the finals together, but I do think it could happen. I think the Rush are a great team. I think that'd be a great series, but I do think the Rush could take it.
So I've actually got Halifax beating Saskatchewan. I think this one goes all 3 games, but it's weird saying this because I talk down them so much in the offseason, but I personally trust Halifax's offense a bit more than Saskatchewan's offense, and that's the only reason. That's not me down talking Saskatchewan. I'm not one of those ones that says Saskatchewan doesn't have a primetime player. They have 4 guys over 70 points this year, and Robert Church didn't play in 2, so he would be in the top 20, top 15 in goals or in point this season as well. But I think Randy Stotts is great. I think Clark Peterson's great. Dawson Theed on the other side. I just think that Halifax has too many pieces, and I think their transition game can run like the best of them. I do like Saskatchewan's. It would be a great series. I would absolutely love it. But I got Halifax making it. So you got Buffalo versus Saskatchewan. I got Buffalo versus Halifax. Who to you is getting crowned the victor?
Yeah, give me Buffalo again. 3-peat. Enjoy it. It's going to be amazing. It's already done. Just sign, seal, and deliver the finals. I do think a rematch of 2016, I believe it was, Buffalo lost to Saskatchewan. I think that'd be a really, really great series. A lot of fun. Again, number 1 team, number 2 team. I think it'd be a great, great series. I could see it going all the way to 3. But I do think Buffalo, like you already mentioned, they're just a different animal in playoffs, and until I see otherwise, I have just very little reason to doubt them. I know the injuries right now are a little bit iffy on the team, but I think they've seen plenty of injuries throughout their seasons and throughout playoffs. They know how to pick it up and how to pick up players when they are down. So Buffalo is they're too talented right now. Their window is still wide open as long as Matt Vince is back there. And with Vince, playoff Vince is just, again, he's much like Buffalo. He is a different animal, and good luck beating them.
Yeah, you can call me a homer, but I'm not a homer. If you've listened to any of these episodes the last 4 years, rarely ever picked Buffalo to win it. I'm like you. The one thing that you said is until proven otherwise, you have to go Buffalo. So I'm going Buffalo over Halifax. I do think it would go the distance. I do think it would go to a game 3. Hopefully that's in Buffalo. You never know. But yeah, I think it goes to game 3 and Buffalo beats Halifax. So I would absolutely love that matchup. But that is concluding this episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. On the next episode, we will be breaking down Buffalo versus San Diego. Who gets out of round 1? It's going to be a very fantastic weekend, Phil. Have a nice, long extended weekend because you are off on Monday and Tuesday. But enjoy the draft and enjoy Friday night.
So if you're listening to this on Thursday, happy draft day. Stay up at your own demise.
So we will conclude this episode. Again, we'll be back on Monday. But stay tuned and go listen to our interview. I plugged it enough. Go listen to Pat Greger's interview with us on Wednesday. It came out. It was a fantastic. I love talking to Pat. He's a big fan of the show. So hi, Pat Gregoire. I know you listen to the show. You told us you do. So haha. Now I'm going to call you out every single episode. But this will conclude this one. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Thank you to Tap That Tap Room, Totally Buffalo Store, and Phrase Flowers for sponsoring this episode and this podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Check out our store on our link tree on our socials or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. We are on YouTube. Big Bills guys over here. Check them out on YouTube. And leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time,